Stuff to do with family overwhelms me quite a bit. You know, worry or stress around family side of things, that does overwhelm me quite a bit.
In a revelation that's left even royal insiders completely stunned, Prince William has finally broken his silence about a hidden chapter in his family's past. A chapter Buckingham Palace has fought to keep buried for decades. Whispers of a secret sister had long circulated in hushed royal circles, dismissed as nothing but gossip. But now, William's shocking confession not only confirms the truth, it exposes a side of the monarchy darker than anyone ever imagined. What could be so explosive that it stayed hidden for years? Stick with us, because this royal twist is one you absolutely cannot miss. Beneath the polished grandeur of the palace, the halls were vast, almost endless. But after Princess Diana's tragic death, it became a hollow, echoing shell of its former self. Marble corridors that once rang with laughter now carried only silence, heavy, suffocating silence that clung to every corner. Every sound seemed too loud, every movement too sharp. Curtains remained drawn and whispers replaced conversations. Even the morning light filtering through the windows felt colder, dimmer, as though it mourned her loss too. Prince William, still a young boy, suddenly carried the weight of a man. His younger brother Harry clung to him for comfort, and William tried desperately to be strong, a pillar in a palace stripped of its heart. But no strength could ever fill the void she left behind, whether at breakfast, during quiet chapel prayers, or in long, sleepless nights alone. He would sit by his window, staring into the gardens where his mother once walked. He could still hear her laughter echo across the lawns, still see her smile turning toward him. But hidden among those memories was something far stranger, something that had haunted him for years. "William," she once whispered, her voice trembling, "there are things they never want spoken about." At the time, he assumed she meant politics or palace scandals, the usual secrets of royal life. But her eyes held a sadness that felt different, personal, dangerous. One night, not long before her death, she came to his room. The palace slept. Only the soft ticking of the clock broke the silence. "Promise me," she said, voice shaking, "you'll always search for the truth, no matter how long it takes." Confused but determined, he nodded. "I promise, Mum." She smiled, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "Good boy." Those two words would echo in his mind for years to come. As William grew older, fragments of forgotten moments began resurfacing, pieces of a puzzle he never knew existed. One memory burned brighter than all the rest. He had once passed her study and overheard her whispering to a close friend, her voice urgent, pained. "They think I'll forget," she murmured softly. "But I can't." I still hear her voice. I still see her face. Her friend had warned her, "Diana, you have to be careful. They'll never let you speak of it." "I know," his mother whispered softly, "but she's my child too." William froze. His heart pounded. Her child. The question burned in his mind then, and it still did. Could it be possible that Princess Diana had been hiding another daughter, a sister William never knew existed? And if so, how far would the royal family go to keep her secret buried? The secret Diana could never speak aloud. Years slipped by quietly, but some memories never faded. As William grew, tiny details from his childhood began resurfacing. Things he had once dismissed, now carrying weight he couldn't ignore. He remembered how his mother would vanish for hours without explanation. When she returned, her smile was gentle but strained, her eyes red, her face pale as if she had been crying alone. Sometimes he noticed sealed envelopes on her desk, no names, no addresses, just her familiar handwriting and the faint scent of her perfume lingering in the air. One day, while looking for a book, he found a photograph tucked between the pages. It was a baby girl, wrapped in a pink blanket. On the back, in Diana's graceful script, were 3 words, "My little one." When he showed her the photo later that day, her reaction startled him. She froze, breath catching in her throat, before forcing a small, trembling smile. "Where did you find this, darling?" she asked softly. "In your book," he replied, puzzled. "Who is she?" For a long, heavy moment, she said nothing. Then she pulled him close, holding him tighter than usual, her voice barely a whisper against his hair. "One day you'll understand, my darling." But not yet. He never forgot the break in her voice or the quiet tears that fell onto his shoulder. Years later, after Diana was gone, That memory became a wound that never fully healed. At her funeral, standing beside Harry, William stared at her coffin, aching to shout the question that had haunted him all his life. Who was she? Mom, but only silence answered. As time went on, William learned to mask his pain with royal composure. The world saw a calm, dutiful prince, but inside, the questions still burned. He began to see life through his mother's eyes. The way she fought against silence, the way she chased truth, even when it cost her everything. Her sorrow, he realized, wasn't just about the crown or her marriage. It was about loss, a loss the world had never been told. Sometimes, alone in his childhood room at Kensington Palace, he sat by the window where he once watched her walk in the garden, the whispers of the past echoing in the air. The flowers had changed, but the air still carried her laughter. Closing his eyes, he could almost hear her whisper again, "One day, you'll understand now." He did. It had never been about scandal, duty, or the weight of the crown. It was about love, the kind hidden, silenced, buried deep beneath the palace walls. Tears glistened in the dim light as he stood there, whispering into the quiet room, "I know now, Mom. I finally understand somewhere in that stillness." Her voice lingered, gentle, warm, eternal. But if the truth was finally clear to him, was the world ready to hear it? The palace itself seemed alive with silence, thick and whispering through the empty corridors after everyone had gone to bed. Inside Kensington Palace, the soft hum of the city outside barely reached the walls. Respectful, almost reverent, the laughter of children had faded, and Kate's gentle voice had quieted for the night. Only the steady ticking of the old clock dared to break the stillness. Prince William sat alone in his study. The soft glow of a lamp lit his face. A pen rested loosely between his fingers as his gaze drifted toward the window, where London's lights shimmered through the mist. To the world, he was calm, composed, the picture of a future king molded by duty and tradition. But beneath that calm exterior lurked a shadow that had haunted him since childhood, refusing to fade no matter how many years passed. Every morning, he wore his perfect smile, helped his children dress, kissed Kate goodbye, and greeted the world with warmth reminiscent of his late mother. But when the cameras disappeared, so did that smile. Kate noticed the moments when his eyes grew distant, lost in some invisible memory. At night, when the palace was still, she would find him by the window, a cold cup of tea untouched beside him. "Are you all right?" she would whisper, touching his arm. He always smiled faintly, saying, "Just go on, darling. I'll be up soon." But he wasn't thinking about tea or sleep. He was remembering, moonlight falling across his desk as he unlocked a small wooden box hidden in a corner drawer. Inside were pieces of a life that still haunted him, faded letters from his mother, photographs worn by time, and a tiny hospital bracelet. The name on it was nearly rubbed away, but he knew every curve of those letters. That bracelet, that name, it carried a secret. No one in the world knew whose name was on that fragile band. Why had his mother kept it hidden from everyone, even him? The letter of truth that night felt different. The silence of Kensington Palace was heavier than usual, almost watchful. The world outside slept, but inside, Prince William remained awake, trapped between memory and duty, between the love he had lost and the secret he now had to carry. The polished room glowed softly under the moonlight, spilling through the tall windows. On his desk sat the small wooden box that had haunted him for years. He opened it once more. Inside lay a tiny bracelet, delicate, almost weightless, made for a newborn's wrist. Under the pale glow, its faint engraving shimmered like a secret waiting to be remembered. For a moment, the years between him and his mother vanished. He could almost hear Diana's gentle voice again. "Never forget kindness, my darling boy." The words pulled at something deep inside him. He remembered the day he had discovered the box, hidden among his mother's belongings, long after her passing. Back then, it had been a mystery he couldn't understand. But now, after years of growing, of feeling the same silence she once endured, it all made sense. He leaned back, eyes burning, staring at the blank sheet before him. His hand trembled as he picked up the pen. "My dearest," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "There are things the world was never meant to know, but I can no longer carry them alone." The words came slowly, painfully. He wrote of duty and the quiet burden it had placed on his heart. He wrote of Diana, her light, her laughter, and the secret that had lived in her eyes. Every stroke of ink was confession and release, each sentence a tether to the past. The air grew thick, heavy with memories. Decades of trying to forget pressed on him. When he paused, his gaze fell on the bracelet. "You were never meant to be forgotten," he murmured, voice trembling. By dawn, the letter was finished. He sealed it carefully, placing it beside his mother's photograph. As the first soft light brushed across the garden, William whispered, "I kept my promise, Mom." Kate entered quietly, her eyes tender. "You didn't come to bed," she said softly. "I had something I needed to finish," he replied. But what truth did that letter hold? And who, one day, would be brave enough to open it? Later, in the attic of Anmar Hall, the afternoon sun slipped softly through the window, casting warm beams that danced through floating dust motes like tiny ghosts of forgotten memories. The air was thick with the scent of cedar and old paper, gentle and hauntingly familiar. Boxes sat stacked like quiet sentinels of the past, each one holding echoes of lives once lived. Kate brushed her fingers across a worn photo album, then lifted a delicate scarf from a faded box. Its soft roses seemed to catch the sunlight. In that tender glow, she smiled faintly. "She must have loved this colour," she whispered. But then, beneath a pile of old letters, something else caught her eye. A small wooden box tucked away and half hidden. Simple, yet beautiful. Its edges smooth, its lock faintly golden, as if waiting for the right hands to uncover the secrets inside. She tilted the box toward the light and noticed an engraving on the lid, a single, elegant letter, D. Her pulse quickened. Carefully, she opened it. The hinges creaked softly, reluctant to break their long silence. Inside lay a small diary, bound in pale leather, edges trimmed in gold. The lock was broken, fragile, but the handwriting that met her eyes made her heart skip a beat. Graceful, slanted, unmistakable. Diana. For a moment, Kate could only stare, her breath caught in her throat. She handled it as if it might vanish if touched too roughly. Then she whispered, "William needs to see this." That evening, as twilight filled the attic, William climbed the stairs. His eyes softened at the sight of her by the window. "You've been here all day," he said gently. "What did you find?" Kate hesitated, then handed him the diary. The moment his gaze fell on it, his breath hitched. This was hers, he murmured, tracing the leather cover with trembling hands. For a long moment, he couldn't open it. Finally, taking a deep breath, he turned the first page. The ink had faded, but her voice came alive through every word. April 1979. The palace feels colder each day, surrounded by gold, yet starved of warmth. William's chest tightened. Then he reached an entry that froze him. June 1980. They told me she didn't make it, but my heart doesn't believe them. I felt her. I heard her first cry. Then nothing. A shiver ran through him. His mother had written of a child, a daughter. Kate placed a hand on his arm, her eyes glistening. Maybe she truly did, she whispered softly. She couldn't have imagined anything like this. He turned another page. The diary ended abruptly. Before Diana's wedding, silence filled the attic, thick and almost sacred. William closed the book slowly. She had always hated secrets. Maybe this was the one she couldn't bear to tell, he whispered. But one question refused to leave his mind. If Diana truly had a daughter, where was she now? And if this diary revealed one hidden truth, what else was still buried behind palace walls? The secret that could shatter the crown. The night at Anmar Hall was still, wrapped in a heavy quiet that deepened as the fire in the hearth faded to glowing embers. The golden light flickered across the walls, soft and tired, like a memory slowly dying. The ticking of the old clock filled the silence, each second stretching longer than the last. Prince William sat alone in the sitting room. His untouched teacup sat beside him, steam long gone cold. Upstairs, Kate had fallen asleep after reading bedtime stories to the children. Their laughter had drifted through the halls earlier, but now the house was swallowed by calm stillness. And yet William's mind refused to rest. His thoughts kept circling back to the secret that had changed everything. It had only been a few weeks since he discovered his mother's hidden diary, tucked away in the attic, its words breathing life into a story no one was ever meant to know. Since that night, the air in Anmar Hall felt heavier, as though the walls themselves carried the weight of Diana's sorrow. The laughter of his children, once pure and bright, now echoed with something fragile, almost haunted. He had told no one. not even Harry. To the world, he was the calm, composed prince, the perfect image of royal poise. But inside, he was a son broken, burning for truth in secret. He began to search. Late at night from his study, he made discreet calls, his voice steady, though his hands trembled. "I'm looking for someone who worked with my mother during her early years," he said carefully. Most people refused to speak. Others claimed to remember nothing. But one name kept surfacing: Nurse Alice Hampton, a retired midwife once assigned to a royal estate in the early 1980s. A week later, William drove alone to a small seaside cottage in Devon. The salty wind whispered through the trees, carrying voices from the past. Alice opened the door slowly, hands trembling but eyes kind. "I thought you might come one day," she said, leading him inside. Sunlight spilled across the kitchen table as they sat together. "I need to ask you about my mother," William said quietly. Alice nodded, tears brimming. "Your mother, she was kind," she whispered, "too kind for what they did to her." "You're not the first child?" William asked, heart pounding. Alice's hands trembled as she spoke. She told him of secrecy, of power, of a baby girl born too soon. Alive, then taken away, erased. William's chest tightened. When he left, the waves crashed hard against the cliffs, echoing his mother's cries through time. Back in his study that night, he held her diary close. "I'll find her, Mum," he whispered. "I promise." But now the truth was stirring, a truth powerful enough to shake the monarchy itself. How long could he protect his mother's secret before the palace tried to bury it again? Outside, the sky above Norfolk was a wash of silver and grey, carrying both calm and sadness. In its quiet, the rain fell softly, steady, endless, whispering against the windows of Anmar Hall. Inside, Prince William sat alone. The grey morning light cast faint shadows around him as he watched raindrops slide down the glass in twisting lines, a quiet rhythm mirroring the storm raging in his heart. His mother had never been allowed to keep her, never allowed to watch. The truth beneath the crown had been buried for decades. Years later, when the woman began searching for her birth records, she had expected something simple: a date, a name, a place. But what she found was something far more disturbing. Fragments that didn't fit, documents that looked altered, pieces of history rewritten. And then there was one mysterious note, written in faded ink: "Birth under protection file, sealed royal medical record." Her voice trembled as she told her story, hands twisting nervously in her lap. William sat motionless across the table, each word hitting him like a slow, deliberate heartbeat. The cafe around them faded into silence. Only her voice remained, soft but steady, carrying the weight of decades spent in secrecy. Tears welled in William's eyes before he could stop them. His throat tightened. I don't know what to say," he whispered, his voice cracking under disbelief and emotion. She smiled faintly, eyes glistening. "You don't have to say anything," she said softly. "I just needed to know if I was real, if she was real." William's hand trembled as he reached across the table, taking hers gently. Her fingers were warm, fragile, human, and heartbreakingly familiar. "She was real," he said quietly, voice breaking. "And she loved you. She never stopped." They sat together for hours, the afternoon fading into soft gold. They spoke of life, of what could have been, of paths that never crossed. She shared her tiny seaside cottage, her work at a children's hospice, the peace she found in helping others heal. She had lived simply, quietly, far from the chaos and expectations of royalty. William listened, torn between peace and pain. Every tilt of her head, every soft smile reminded him of Diana, her warmth, her kindness, the way her presence could fill a room. It was like seeing a part of his mother come back to life. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the cafe grew quiet. Chairs were stacked, lights dimmed. William knew the truth could never be made public. The monarchy was fragile. One revelation like this could change everything, yet he also knew he couldn't let her disappear again. He looked into her tearful eyes and said softly, "You'll never be alone again. I promise." She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't want anything. I just needed to know I wasn't forgotten." William stood, pulling her into his arms, holding her tightly as if shielding her from the cold winds of history itself. "You're not forgotten," he murmured. "You're one of us, even if the world can't know." When he stepped outside, the air was cool and still. The stars shimmered faintly above the Norfolk sky. Somewhere, he felt his mother watching, proud, peaceful, free. And as he drove back into the night, One question echoed endlessly in his heart. How long could the truth remain hidden beneath the weight of the crown? The letter of truth lay open, bathed in the soft glow of a London evening spilling through the tall windows of Prince William's study. Everything it touched turned to shades of amber and quiet sadness. The house was still. From upstairs came only the faint echo of laughter, long faded, the sounds of his children now asleep. Kate had gone to bed hours earlier. Her gentle goodnight kiss still lingered on his cheek, but William remained where he was, seated at his desk, staring at the empty page before him. The pen in his hand trembled ever so slightly. For years, he had carried the truth like a heavy stone in his chest, immovable, unspoken, but tonight felt different. The silence of the room seemed to invite him to finally let it go. He took a deep breath and began to write, each word slow, deliberate, drawn from the deepest corners of his heart. This was not a letter for the world, not for the palace, the press, or history's endless gaze. It was for his children, a truth that would one day belong to them, a truth about love, loss, and the courage that can never be captured in headlines. He wrote about their grandmother, Diana, her laughter that could fill a room, her warmth that made strangers feel seen, and her quiet pain that few had ever understood. He wrote of the hidden story she carried, the sister lost to time, the life erased but never forgotten. And he told them that beyond the crown, beyond the endless expectations, life was about something far greater: forgiveness, compassion, humanity. His pen slowed. He closed his eyes, whispering softly into the still air, "You'll read this one day, and I hope you'll understand." His mind drifted to her, the woman he now knew as his sister. He had met her only once, yet her presence had mended a part of him broken for decades. She lived quietly by the sea, content in her peace, far from the noise of royalty. She never asked for more. Every year, on Diana's birthday, William kept his promise to her. 2 bouquets were sent, one to his mother's island resting place and one to a small, nameless cottage by the coast. A silent message. We remember. We are still family. As the night deepened, William signed his name carefully, folded the letter, and placed it inside a carved wooden box beside a faded photograph of Diana, smiling in the sunlight. He stared at her face, her kindness, her strength, her truth. "One day," he whispered, barely audible, "the truth will set us all free." He closed the box, setting it gently on the shelf. The burden felt lighter. The silence finally felt kind. So what do you think? Should William reveal the truth to the world, or keep his promise of silence? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more royal secrets.